Welcome to the official channel of Prosper Anang Ministries. Step into a powerful journey of faith, inspiration, and spiritual growth with Pastor Prosper, a privileged servant of Jesus. As the lead pastor of the New Testament Gospel Church in Benin City, Nigeria, Pastor Prosper is on a global mission to transform lives. He is an author, writer, fluently sharing God's Word, deep, life-changing insights right to your screen. If you are seeking spiritual guidance, a vibrant faith with God, you are in the right place.
When most of us picture spiritual warfare, our minds immediately jump to something out of a blockbuster film.
Oh, absolutely, yeah.
We imagine these intense physical clashes with invisible enemies, maybe wielding some sort of sci-fi energy shield to protect ourselves from the darkness of the world. And, well, it is dramatic, it is external, and honestly, it can feel a bit exhausting to you as a believer.
It really can.
Yeah. But what if we have been looking at the wrong battlefield entirely? What if the most dangerous combat zone isn't in the atmosphere at all, but is actually a locked courtroom deep inside your own head?
Well, that completely shifts how you approach the problem, doesn't it? We spend an enormous amount of energy trying to fight external darkness, and we often miss the fact that the most crippling barriers are actually the internal structural paradigms that we have, just quietly accepted as truth.
Right. And that is precisely the mission we are tackling with you today in this masterclass. We are going to confront and really dismantle those deeply entrenched psychological and theological strongholds that just keep believers sidelined in their everyday lives.
Exactly.
Specifically, we are targeting two massive internal barriers today. The first is the sacred secular divine, and the second is what is known as the spirit of exile. And to do this properly, we are drawing our curriculum today from the Today's Word for You devotional by Pastor Prosper Anang.
Which is, I have to say, a crucial text for this, because it argues that the greatest impediment to the global expansion of the kingdom of God is not anti-Christian governments or aggressive secular institutions.
Wait, really? It's not the external stuff?
No, not primarily. The primary bottleneck is actually a dualistic, defeatist paradigm within our own minds. We sort of artificially limit God to the four walls of a church building and essentially surrender the rest of human culture to darkness. Business, arts, education, we just hand it over.
Okay, let's unpack this. Because if the problem is in our own minds, well, we need to know exactly how that mechanism works. The foundational scriptural law for this concept is in 2 Corinthians chapter 10, verses 4 and 5, which talks about pulling down strongholds.
Right.
And, well, for the longest time, I heard the word stronghold, and I literally pictured a spooky entity hovering in the corner of a room.
Yeah, that is a very common misconception, to be fair, but it completely misses the legal reality of the text.
To really grasp this, we have to look at the precise legal and linguistic framework the Apostle Paul was using there.
Right, the original language.
Exactly. He used the classical Greek word akiroma for stronghold. Now, in Greek jurisprudence, an akiroma was not a spooky spirit at all. It was a fortified military garrison. And even more accurately, in the context of a courtroom, it was a fortified legal defense, a logged, impenetrable argument.
So wait, if I'm following this, you are saying a stronghold isn't a monster at all. It is a mindset that has fortified itself like a literal military base in your brain. Precisely. Yeah, spot on. And Paul connects this akiroma to another Greek word, which is logismos. It is translated in many English Bibles as imaginations, but logismos literally means computations, internal reasonings, philosophies, and counter-arguments.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And when you look at how the Today's Word for You devotional by Pastor Prosper Anang applies this, it becomes incredibly practical for you. Imagine you are a mid-level manager at a massive corporate bank.
Okay, I'm picturing it.
Right. You see predatory lending practices, you see toxic office politics, and you sit at your desk computing the situation. And you think to yourself, well, I cannot manifest God here. This place is just too corrupt.
Yeah, and my assumption would be that I'm just being a realist in that moment. I'm looking at the data and making a profound spiritual observation about the sad state of my industry.
But according to this framework, you aren't being a realist at all. You are actually bowing to an illegal, demonic counter-argument. You are agreeing with the opposing counsel's legal defense in the courtroom of your mind. So, spiritual warfare, therefore, is primarily the dismantling of these illegal mental strongholds. It is tearing down the logismos.
That is, so my own cynicism about my industry is actually me acting as the defense attorney for the enemy.
Yes, exactly.
Well, that is a heavy realization, because if I believe the secular world is out of bounds from my faith, I am suffering from the sacred secular divide. And if I believe I am just a helpless victim in a corrupt system, well, I am under the influence of the spirit of exile. Both of these are just religious fictions designed to keep believers quarantined.
Absolutely. They are administrative errors in our thinking, essentially.
So legally, the courtroom in our head needs to be cleared out. But let's be real for a second. Knowing you have been thinking about it wrong doesn't magically make your inbox less toxic on a Tuesday morning.
Right, of course not.
So how does this translate to actual historical precedent? Because, you know, God's people have been trapped in genuinely corrupt, overwhelming systems before.
They have, many times. And the historical blueprint for breaking out of this mindset is found in Jeremiah 29. So the nation of Israel was in physical captivity in Babylon.
Right.
And this wasn't just a tough corporate job. They were surrounded by an entirely pagan culture, immersed in an administrative system that was completely hostile to their faith and their very existence. And their initial reaction was total administrative despair, right? I mean, the Psalms describe them hanging up their harps on the willow trees, just completely refusing to sing.
Yeah, exactly.
They essentially adopted the ultimate spirit of exile, deciding, well, we cannot possibly do God's work in Babylon, so let's just isolate ourselves, survive, and wait to be rescued.
But God's response to that posture is revolutionary. Through the prophet Jeremiah, the sovereign Lord did not tell them to build an underground monastery. He didn't hand them a survival guide or an escape manual.
Yeah. Instead, in Jeremiah 29, verses 5 and 7, he issues a sharp legal corrective. He commands them to build houses, plant gardens, eat the fruit of them, and actively seek the peace, the shalom of the very city where they were held captive.
The audacity of that command is just staggering when you think about it. He tells them to prosper right in the middle of the corruption.
And the vocabulary used is vital here. Look closely at the Hebrew word used for plant in that passage, which is nata.
Nata. Okay.
Yeah, this is not a passive word about doing a bit of light gardening on the weekend. Nata carries an aggressive, almost militant connotation of permanent territorial establishment.
Oh, I see.
It means to fasten, to strike in, to establish firmly. Think about planting a fruit tree. You don't get fruit the next day. You are signaling permanence. God was establishing a fundamental law of kingdom occupation here, telling you that your assignment is never to wait for an environment to become righteous before you thrive.
You inject the prosperity, the order, and the legislation of heaven directly into the very heart of Babylon. So you don't wait for Babylon to become Jerusalem. You actually bring the rules of Jerusalem into Babylon.
Yes, exactly. You do not wait for your company to become a Christian organization before you can enact the shalom of God there. You nata. You aggressively plant heaven's legislation right where you are.
Which brings us to a moment in the curriculum today that just anchors this entire concept. Today's Word for You devotional by Pastor Prosper Anang distills this legal reality into one defining statement.
It really does.
And I want you, the listener, to just pause whatever you are doing right now and absorb the weight of this. Here's the quote verbatim. A stronghold is not a physical brick wall. It is a fortified argument in your mind that tells you darkness has more right to your industry than the light of God. Cast it down. The courtroom of heaven has already ruled in your favor. Pastor Prosper Anang.
What's fascinating here is that this is a staggering legal reality to process. The courtroom of heaven has already ruled in your favor. We really need to understand the mechanics of what Pastor Prosper Anang is saying here.
Yes, please break that down.
He is stating that the Supreme Court of Heaven has already evaluated the claim that darkness has ultimate jurisdiction over the tech industry or the financial sector or the arts. And the court has ruled that claim completely null and void.
The verdict is already in. Darkness has no legal right to your industry whatsoever. Which means the only place that argument still holds any weight is in the unrenewed mind of the believer.
Exactly.
The akiroma, that stronghold we talked about, is just the lie that darkness holds the deed to your workplace.
Think about it like a property dispute. Imagine you win a massive lawsuit and the judge hands you the legal deed to a house. but there is a squatter living inside who refuses to leave.
Right.
Now, the squatter has no legal right to be there, but as long as you believe their argument that they own the place, well, you will stay outside shivering on the lawn. When Pastor Prosper Anang says, cast it down, he is telling you to take that deed and execute the eviction.
Wow.
You do not have to beg God to give you victory in your workplace. The victory is already legally yours. You simply have to enforce the ruling by pulling down the mental argument that says otherwise.
Okay, I hear the infiltration argument, and the legal reality of it is frankly thrilling. But let me push back a little here, because this is where the rubber meets the road for a lot of us.
Sure, go ahead.
Realistically, if I am in an industry that is fundamentally built on exploiting people or, cutting ethical corners just to turn a profit, staying in it just feels like complicity.
I understand that, yeah.
So how do you draw the line between bringing the light and just becoming part of the corrupt machine? This is the most holy thing I could do, just to keep my hands clean and boycott it entirely.
That is a very natural hesitation, but it is actually the first of 3 illegal arguments that sponsor passivity. The source material identifies what you just described as the doctrine of spiritual isolationism.
Okay.
We make this massive administrative error where we think being holy means treating the secular world like it is radioactive, so we pull away to keep our hands clean. But you cannot change a system you refuse to touch.
But doesn't touching a corrupt system inherently corrupt you? I mean, that's the fear, right?
Not according to the scriptural law established in John 17, verse 15. In that text, Jesus explicitly prayed, I pray not that thou shouldest take them out of the world, but that thou shouldest keep them from the evil.
Oh, wow. So he actually prayed against isolation.
Exactly. Isolationism sounds pious, but it directly violates that prayer. It essentially surrenders the territory to the enemy without firing a single shot. Imagine a software engineer working at a social media company, right?
Mm-hmm.
And their algorithms are intentionally designed to be addictive and harmful to teenagers.
Yeah, a very real scenario.
Boycotting that company means the engineer quits, keeps their hands clean, and hands the wheel over to someone who doesn't care at all about the ethics. Infiltrating means staying in the room and aggressively pushing for ethical code reviews and humane design.
That makes a lot of sense. But that brings up the second argument, which the devotional calls the lie of structural helplessness. Let's stick with that, software engineer, for a second.
Okay.
They look at the vast systemic corruption in global tech or global economics, and it feels completely overwhelming. I mean, they are just one mid-level coder. They are totally helpless to change a multi-billion-dollar corporate machine.
The feeling is valid, sure, but the legal standing is false. This is where we have to understand what we can call the law of spiritual leverage. When you feel overwhelmed by the size of the corruption, you are evaluating the situation based purely on your own human capital.
Law of spiritual leverage. Break down how that mechanism works for that software engineer.
Imagine a junior analyst who walks into a massive corporate board meeting. To everyone else in the room, they look like they have zero power. They are at the bottom of the org chart.
Right, totally invisible.
But what no one else in the room knows is that the majority shareholder, the person who actually owns the company, secretly gave that junior analyst their proxy voting rights.
Oh, brilliant.
So when it comes time to make a decision, that junior analyst raised hand carries the exact same weight as the billionaire owner. In the kingdom context, a single believer operating as a legally authorized ambassador backed by the Supreme Court of Heaven carries infinitely more legislative weight than 1 million illegal demonic squatters.
Wow.
You are not operating on your own limited corporate authority. You have the spiritual leverage, the proxy vote of the kingdom behind you.
So one believer who knows their legal standing can actually out-legislate a boardroom full of darkness.
Yes.
That completely changes your posture when you walk into a meeting.
Yeah.
But there's still a third illegal argument we have to evict, isn't there? The error of the survival mindset.
Yes. This is the paradigm where a believer goes to work merely to survive until the weekend. They just want to clear their bills, pay their mortgage, clock out, and eventually go to heaven. It is the ultimate TGIF mentality. Thank God it's Friday. Just keep your head down and survive the grind.
Exactly, but you were not redeemed by the blood of Christ merely to survive an economic system. Survival is just a manifestation of the spirit of exile. The mandate for the believer is administrative takeover.
Right.
You are called to occupy, to rule, and to plant the flag of the King of Kings over your entire economic realm. Domination and shalom are the true manifestations of the kingdom.
This is incredibly practical, and to help believers actually enforce this, the Today's Word for You devotional by Pastor Prosper Anang provides 3 Speak Life personalized declarations.
Yet it does.
Now, we need to be clear about the mechanism here. These aren't just positive affirmations you say in the mirror to feel better about yourself. They are legal decrees. Why is speaking them out loud so important? Because of the psychological and spiritual mechanics of how a logismos is broken. Remember, a stronghold is a fortified internal reasoning. When you speak scriptural law out loud, you are actively disrupting the neurological and spiritual pathways of defeat.
Disrupting the computations.
Exactly. You are serving a vocal eviction notice to the illegal arguments in your consciousness and enforcing the new legal reality.
Okay, so the first declaration directly targets 2 Corinthians 10, verses 4 and 5, actively casting down the defeatist reasonings and declaring that the weapons of our warfare pull down the mental strongholds of passivity.
Spot on.
Then the second declaration uses Jeremiah 29 to break the power of the spirit of exile. It is a vocal commitment not to sit back and weep, but to go forth and build, plant, multiply, and enforce the shalom of God over economic systems.
While the third focuses on John 17, verse 15, completely refusing the doctrine of isolationism, it is a declaration that you step boldly into the gates of influence with the full protective backing of Jesus Christ. For those of you in cell study groups right now, declaring these out loud together is exactly how you begin to permanently shift the atmosphere of your own mind.
Which leads us perfectly into the final segment of our deep dive together. We have moved from identifying the stronghold to understanding our historical and legal precedent to dismantling the counter-arguments. But to seal this, the devotional transitions from teaching into what we can call prophetic activation.
And we really need to define what that actually means in modern terms, because it can sound like religious jargon to some.
Right, fair enough. In the devotional, there is an author's personalized spiritual warfare declaration. Now, this isn't just a nice concluding poem to wrap up a chapter. This is Pastor Prosper Anang's direct, prophetic, and heartfelt priestly declaration prayer over his global audience watching across the nations of the earth on YouTube.
Yes.
It is a literal transfer of authority.
And the legal backing for his decree is found in Luke 10, verse 19, where Jesus says, "Behold, I give unto you power to tread on serpents and scorpions, and over all the power of the enemy, and nothing shall by any means hurt you."
That's powerful.
What Pastor Prosper Anang is doing in this prayer is using that foundational scriptural law to command an immediate judicial eviction of the spirit of exile from the consciousness of the listener.
He decrees that every demonic stronghold of structural helplessness, of isolationism and defeatist survival thinking is completely shattered. He is releasing an unhindered mandate for you to build, to plant, and to dominate right in the thick of Babylon.
Yeah, exactly.
He is making it legally clear that no corporate environment is too corrupt for your light to pierce.
Mm-hmm.
You're being equipped to outthink, outwork, and outlegislate every structure of darkness in your specific marketplace.
It is a profound equipping. The instruction is incredibly clear. Rise up, step out of self-quarantine, and take the gates of your industry.
Now, for all the small cell study group leaders listening right now, we want to help you transition your group from merely listening to this masterclass to actively grappling with it.
Right, to make it practical.
Exactly. So based on the devotional's further jurisdictional study of these scriptures, here are 3 highly targeted prompts for your groups to work through together right now.
Prompt number 1. Looking closely at John 17, verse 15, and the call to infiltrate rather than boycott, in what specific ways have we mistakenly tried to disengage from our industries? Where have we used holiness as a convenient excuse for isolation?
Oof, that is going to require some real honesty. Okay, prompt number 2. How does the law of spiritual leverage, that proxy voting power we talked about, change the way we view our individual roles in massive, seemingly corrupt corporate structures?
That's a great one.
Right. When you realize you have the full backing of Heaven's Supreme Court, how does that practically change your posture when you log into work?
And finally, prompt number 3. Based on the raw authority given in Luke 10, verse 19, what does it practically look like to exercise your authority to outthink, outwork, and out-legislate darkness in your specific workplace this coming week? What is one actionable step you can take?
I know those prompts are going to generate some phenomenal paradigm-shifting conversations in your groups. As we wrap up this deep dive curriculum drawn directly from the Today's Word for You devotional by Pastor Prosper Anang, I want to leave you with one final thought to mull over on your own.
Go for it.
We started today by talking about that locked courtroom inside your head, where you might have been silently agreeing with the argument that your workplace is simply too far gone, too corrupt, or too secular for God's presence to make a difference.
Yeah.
But if the Supreme Court of Heaven has already ruled in your favor, and if you are no longer a helpless exile but a fully authorized ambassador holding the proxy vote of the King, what is the very first piece of heavenly legislation you are going to enact in your workplace tomorrow morning?